Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And as usual, I am your host, Larry Cox, and I will be joined tonight by two special guests that I'm getting ready to bring on. One will be Miss Kay Chase, who is the president of the Limbrook subdivision, and the other is Mr. James Corbett. We're going to be talking about the proposed RV park in Rockdale County and the proposed development of Safe Farm. So, glad to have each and every one of you here tonight. I'm going to bring my guest on, say hello to them, and then we'll say hello to each one of you in the chat. Good day, Kay. Good day, James. Glad to have you guys on This Week from Rockdale tonight. And don't know if you've ever watched the show, but you're on the show, so it's an exciting thing. A lot of people do watch the show. A lot of people find out what's going on locally by tuning into the show. And we do this kind of thing all the time, is bring people on and let them advocate for things that are going on in Rockdale County. Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know what's going on right next door. So if we could, Kay, let's let you introduce yourself first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kay Chase. I'm the HOA president. I have been an advocate for, doing the right thing at the right time. And I think now is the right time to kind of understand this political process in Rockdale County. So I'm happy to, be the person who can have a voice for the voiceless sometime in reference to what we do not want in our community, which is the RV park.
Thank you. And we'll get back to you in a second. Now, Mr. James Corbett, if you want to introduce yourself, James, and tell people who you are and what you're here to talk about.
Okay. Well, my name is James Corbett. I live in Manchester Subdivision, which is right across Highway 212 from C Farms, which is the proposed development at Georgia 212 and Oglesby Bridge Road. And I'm just kind of a volunteer that people will tell you I can't keep my opinion to myself. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And but I'm working with a group of people working basically on several proposed subdivisions that are very similar in nature. And we're working in opposition to each of those. And so I've just kind of stepped up, volunteered, been volunteered, however you want to say it, to just try to keep this area as rural and, kind of calm as I can. So thanks, Larry, for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Let me go ahead and say hi to some more of our listeners. We already have a really good audience tuning in tonight, guys. So if we get this many people watching live, you'll have 1,000, 1,500 people, even more, that'll tune in and watch this show, the replay of it. So this is going to go out to a good number of people. So let me go ahead and say hi to the people who make it happen. Joy Powers, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Mary Boysworth, welcome to the show. Charlotte Gellert, great to have you. Miss Russo, great to have you here tonight. Tanae Davis, great to see you, my friend. Can't wait to battle with you for educational issues. Angela Asperino, great to have you here tonight, Angela. Cheryl Garcia, great to see you. George Kelichek, the eye of the taxpayer, great to have you tonight here, George. Danielle Munoz, great to have you here tonight, Danielle. Cheryl Moulton, great to have you. Alex McDonald, great to be here. Justin, you're not late, you're just on time. Justin Kinney, fellow Board of Education member. Catherine Lynn, great to have you here. And the Brush Fire Mind, Chris Lowry. Man, I haven't seen you in forever, man. Great to have Chris here tonight. Chris also does podcasting and live shows. Great to have him here tonight. Clayton Orwig, a good friend of the show and a friend of the community, Mr. Clayton Orwig. Great to see you guys. And we've got chatting it up with CJ Lester. Great to have you here tonight also. And Bill Campbell. People, that you just keep coming in and keep coming in. And like I always say, share and like the show. Build this audience so that this issue can be put out there in Rockdale County and more people can be aware of what's going on right in their neighborhood. So, Kay, let's start out for a minute. Now, this RV park, a little personal with me. Uh, they're right around the curve. Going to be no more than 100 yards from me if it would be enacted. Uh, and I'm really glad to see a bunch of people in the whole area here that have said this is not the right fit for Rockdale County and specifically off this little artery, which is a lot of people don't realize how busy this artery is, do they, Kay?
Absolutely not. It is really the entry point into Henry County, even going into DeKalb County. And now with the roundabout and the school traffic, who knows how much more traffic can come, even with homes, but more importantly, the RV parks is what we really do not want in our community.
Yes, and and I'd seen something that James and some of his people had talked about as far as some racing on 212. If you would have looked at the intersection of East Fairview and Union Church right above my house, did you see all those tire tracks where they were doing donuts?
It's coming. They're kicking them out of Atlanta, they're kicking them out of Gwinnett, and they just want to find a place to do a 360 turn on.
They were doing the donuts at the intersection at 212 and Union Church, and it was just the smell of rubber and just the rubber tracks all in that intersection last weekend, and they were there. I mean, and it's it's coming, and we've got to do things to fight that. So James, I went to the meeting over at Johnson Park the other day, heard a lot of the opposition to what was going on. Why don't you give us your spiel on the development of Safe Farm?
Well, thanks. And in fact, Mr. C gave me kind of a talking to at the end of the meeting. So the plan right now is C Farms. He started it in 1972 or so. Is when he moved out to Rockdale, and so he's ready to sell that land. And right now, it's zoned agricultural residential, which means that it can be used as is for a subdivision like, say, Stratford or Deer Run that have 1 acre minimum lots. But what Mr. C and Steve Goodsell, who developed Manchester and Stratford and a couple of other subdivisions in the area, want to do is they want to rezone it collaborative residential subdivision. Now, at the meeting, he kept calling it conservation residential, but it's actually collaborative. And it does have supposedly a conservation element to it. But what he wants to do is he wants to put 200 and the proposal or the request, his rezoning request said 230. He said 240, but his plat shows 242 homes on a pretty small part of the 100 and I think 30 acres that would be residential.
James, didn't that also include a strip mall?
Well, yes, that's the other part of it is he wants to put at the corner of 212 and Oglesby Bridge it's a 10-acre site that fronts 212 that would have, from his artist rendering, it looked to be about four or five, I think it was about 5 freestanding structures. I don't think they have any vendors or any renters businesses lined up yet. His comment was that he anticipated it wouldn't be like a Publix or a Kroger because they're so close. But he indicated something that it was possible that it could be a store like an Aldi or Lidl. I want to make sure that everybody's clear that there are no tenants yet.
Well, James, you remember a few years ago, you and I were all from this part of the county, when the Food Lion tried an adventure over there off 20 in Oglesby. That didn't go well, did it?
Well, that particular one you mentioned was it started out as a Winn-Dixie in about 96. Mm-hmm. It switched over to the Winn-Dixie, kind of their warehouse club. That closed. It opened up as an independent store called County Market. which converted over, which was owned by I think somebody that owned the Piggly Wiggly over on West Avenue, switched over to Piggly Wiggly, went empty again. Food Line bought it, extended the strip mall, and then Food Line was there for not 2 years.
No.
They opened in July of 2010. In February of 2012, they closed. And that strip mall has sat empty, except for some of the side stores, up until about a year ago. And now it's just a Cube Smart storage facility.
I think you got you have a Dollar Tree, you have the Goodwill, something else, and then the storage.
When those leases are up, it's expected that those will be taken out, and then Cube Smart will just take over the entire.
That will end up being a whole storage,
right,
in indoor storage facility,
exactly.
And that's what I figured was going to happen there too.
So, and if you look at across the intersection from where they want to put in that little mini strip mall, the gym that used to be the Movie Owl or whatever it was back in the late 90s was a pool supply company. Then it was a gym, and that gym has now gone out of business. So they're not able to maintain anything really on that corner.
Well, how many people have ran that little chicken wing or pizza, whatever they put in there? I mean, it's been a dozen people that I know of have tried to make that business float.
Exactly. So, and my wife and I, coming back from the airport just a little bit ago, we stopped by Publix, and there were, I think, 6 storefronts available at the Publix just 4 miles down the road. And I think there are 2 or 3 available down at 212 and 20 at the Kroger shopping center. And again, you've got 3 grocery stores, if you count the Food Depot at Honey Creek and 20, within a 4 or 5 mile radius here.
Well, and you don't even have to, James, just go over across Kellytown and you've got the new Publix that's there right across in Henry County. I mean, when you look at the region there, it's saturated with grocery stores.
Right.
That you can, within 10 minutes of where we live, you can be to a grocery store.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Now, Kay, if you would like to mention about I think one of the arguments you guys really brought to home, I think, with the RV park was the fact that there was no business to support the RV park right in this part that would need to be supported. So would you touch base on that?
So when you think about an RV park, you don't think about a residential neighborhood. You don't think about it being, right down the street from a school. By nothing but the gas station and maybe a grocery store. So we want, the potential seller to be mindful that this is not a great business opportunity. And it really just lends an eye to what else do you want to do? What do you really want to do with this property? We know you telling us it's an RV park, but it's really far, far from the truth when you think about what amenities does this particular strip of East Fairview can offer to someone that's going, that would like to be in an RV park, unless we typically talking about maybe a long-term or a transit community. And that's another fight that we really want people to understand, that this is, we saying for militaries, the potential buyer is calling it, this is something for the military. This is something for vets to come in and, with their RVs and relax and, have this utopia type of feeling. But we strongly feel that in 6 months, 6 years, it's going to look different. And if the county approves it, there's nothing we can do about it. It's a bigger fight, but, for us to figure out for him to do the right thing. So although he may be calling it an RV park now, we don't know what it may morph into 6 months, 6 years from now. So when you think about even just something as simple as the infrastructure of a gas station for them to fill up their RV with, the diesel pump, when you think about the waste that's required to dump, where would that take place at? So
yes, I mean, you're right. I mean, just is the infrastructure even there to handle something like that? In rural Rockdale, and that's what you look at is maybe biting off more than they can chew. And at James, so did I hear this correctly the other day? Because I've got to ask. Did I hear this correctly the other day? Part of their development plan is banking on the county bringing the sewer development into them so that they can do that. And they wouldn't be paying a dime. They would be letting the county take care of infrastructure development on, again, the taxpayers' dime for them to make millions of dollars. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct. The plan is that the county would handle basically running the sewage lines from the neighborhood, I think, to the Scott Creek packing plant at there at Meadowbrook subdivision. That's about 1.5 miles away. So that'd be 1.5 miles of piping that they would have to run.
Well, and we have someone on the show tonight, actually Mr. Bill Campbell, who was a member, though, before the committee was become defunct. He was a member of that, and Bill and I have had several talks about that. That packing station couldn't handle that, and that station is scheduled and actually been mandated to be shut down. And they're supposed to be building another one. And Mr. Campbell told me it would be millions of dollars to actually run those lines. And we're talking about millions of dollars to actually, because they're going to have to put a new station in. And that would be totally a burden of the taxpayers of Rockdale County, because those developers have no plans of contributing to that.
Yes, that is entirely correct, as I understand it. Is that they would have to, because of this being a collaborative residential subdivision where the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, you just can't put a septic field in that small of a lot, which kind of gets into something that Larry, you and I and Ms. Kay were talking about earlier, which is, again, this area is already rezoned AR, 1 acre lots minimum, which is plenty of room to put a septic field. If there's going to be a subdivision there, and frankly, Rockdale County is not a farming county anymore, at least on the south end, and there's going to be a subdivision there at some point. We just don't want it to be this subdivision. We don't want 242, if that's the correct number, houses on such a small piece of land. At that meeting, they also talked about all the amenities and how they wanted to add value to Manchester and add value to Stratford. And then they talked about, the swimming pool and the walking trail. And somebody asked, well, gee, is that open to everybody? Well, no, you have to be a resident and you have to be an HOA dues paying member in order to use that. And I'm sitting there scratching my head thinking, how does this add value to my neighborhood when 2 miles up the road, I've got all the walking trails I want at the Path Foundation spur line at the monastery. It just doesn't make sense.
We know the same thing. We've got right at the Lorraine Head trailhead that connects to that. We're a few miles both right to there, right? So, okay, how many RV sites did they say they want to put in there?
200 RV pads. So you want to put 200 RV pads. He also mentioned amenities like a pool and a store and a walking path and a trail to benefit who? It's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit those residents. So when you're thinking about RV parks, you just think about all the negative things that can come with it. And truly, you have to visit an RV park to understand what their RV life is like, right? But it's just not a good fit. And I hate to be like a dream killer or a dream crusher for this, for this investor, but I think his money is best spent somewhere else.
Like I say, that's 40 acres. You could build 40 homes there right now, and there's not anything we can do about it because that's what it's developed. It's actually zoned for that right now.
That's the weird thing about these special use permits. Why even have them? Like, keep it zoned. Like, this is something that this is something Rockdale created way before I probably, that we even existed here. So let's, really try to find developers who can really possibly build something of value to our community. We don't want the cookie cutter stackable houses. We don't want the townhomes. Let's try to make Rockdale, we know something is coming. We know something is coming. We just don't want to have to put up this fight every couple of months. If a new developer comes in, like, for example, if this particular production, Mr. James is talking about, if they come like, oh, well, it's 40 acres right around the corner, let's go there. That's another fight. So let's just keep it zoned for what it's for, and we don't have to put up this fight.
But, Chris Curran, he mentions that he's been RVing for 20 plus years, and he point blanks, and I have an RV too, right? So, and this is when I I'm going someplace to camp, relax, a different kind of environment, right? I would never go to a campground like the one they're proposing. Never in a million years would I consider that something that would be something that I would want to go visit or do. Never in a million years. So he's right, because Chris says that vagrants maybe, right? So that's what we're concerned about. And James, when they were talking the other day, they mentioned, and this is something that Kay and I will both be concerned about, they mentioned education, right? And I do believe that at a certain point over there, they do come over to Lorraine and Ray Davis. So because my daughters actually, went here, and a lot of the kids they went to school with ended up going to Salem High School, right? So, but they did come to Ray Davis Middle, and they did come to Lorraine before they separated, and half went to Salem and half went to Heritage. So when they were citing those school numbers the other day, and they were talked about the capacity being there, didn't they understand there's a reason the capacity is in the school system right now? Because we don't have families moving to Rockdale County right now. And what they're wanting to build just doesn't fit Rockdale County. I mean, the median income in Rockdale County is $75,000. James, can I ask you a question? Can somebody making $75,000 afford the mortgage for what they're planning on building there?
Oh, no, no way. Yeah. One of the things I looked at was I looked at the census numbers, got, I think, 74,000. So 74, 75,000 a year. I just said, okay, Mr. Goodsell did say the other night that the homes in C Farms will be 400 to 500,000. So I said, okay, $500,000 home. I don't have the little spreadsheet handy that I put together, but if you take, if you put down 20%, that's a $400,000 mortgage. Say you take 30 years fixed, current interest rate is about 7.02%. And you look at the mortgage payment, and then you throw on it, let's say, a $400 a month HOA payment. Because again, you got a pool, you've got trails, you've got lights, you've got all of that. You throw on your insurance, property taxes on that's what's going to be $5,000-6,000 a year. You're looking at about $3,800 a month in just housing. So if you 4,000, that's $48,000 a year. If you take the Dave Ramsey rule, which is, the Dave Ramsey rule is actually your housing should be no more than a quarter of your take-home pay.
25%, yes.
Yeah, but okay, let's say, forget, computing the tax on all that. If you take that, that means that you've got to have an household income of about $160,000 a year to comfortably afford that $400,000 mortgage. And what Steve Goodsell was saying that night in that meeting was, well, Rockdale is, surveys say that Rockdale County is in desperate need of like nurses and firefighters. Well, nurses and firefighters and teachers can't afford a $400,000 mortgage. And who really wants to pay $400,000 and $500,000 for a house that, if you stretch your arms out the window, you'll reach into somebody else's house. I don't see that, and I don't see that. Rockdale has necessarily that kind of income. Now, if you build on 1 acre lots, you're still going to have, maybe 400,000 or 500,000, but I think people would be more apt to buy something like that because they've got land. And if you had 1 acre lots, people that want a pool could put in their own pool. They need it, but, as you can see over my shoulder, I'm a rambling wreck, and I tend to ramble. So just let me know when I'm.
You got it. Well, I went to Peachtree City the other day, and I actually went to a development that's exactly what they're talking about developing, right? And it was a golf cart community, and the houses, you could do exactly what you said. They had the 20-foot spacing between them. But you know what? That community fit Peachtree City. It fit the community, right? That type of community does not fit Rockdale County. It's like I talked to some folks the other day, and I talked about we build the sidewalks to nowhere. So you have all these subdivisions and these townhomes that have popped up, and they've built, and they all have these nice sidewalks that are right in front of them, and they go to nowhere. The zoning requires them to put the sidewalks there, but the sidewalks go to nowhere. It's just for looks, right? It's just cosmetic. So the sidewalks, they may look nice out in front, but they don't fit this community, do they? Well, this is a rural community. They serve no purpose. Yeah. This is a, whether people like it, love it, or whatever. Rockdale County is a rural bedroom community. And
as I mentioned to you earlier, and Kay earlier, what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to take Archie Bunker's row houses from Queens and plop them in the middle of Green Acres, and it's just not, it just doesn't fit the area, and it just will stick out like a sore thumb.
So the sewer thing, Bill Campbell just answered that in the chat. He said that packing plant was scheduled to be taken offline, and that a force main will then be turned to the Snapping Shoals treatment plant. The cost will be approximately $26 million to do that. And then you're talking about you would have to run the lines to there, which would be several $1 million. And they expect that cost to be picked up by the taxpayers. And the only way they can do this if they get sewer into that area, because without sewer, they've got to go back to the way it's zoned: agriculture, residential, 1 acre lots, and septic. And that would be a lot less. Let me ask you a question. And when the other day I found it interesting when Mr. C talked about looking at the cattle across the road. Does he still plan on living there and having that view across the road?
I can't recall if he said he lived in that house. I saw him the other day getting his mail.
He said he lived there.
Okay.
But does he continue? Does he plan on continuing to live there once he develops that and have the view of the former cow pasture?
I don't know. I do know somebody that owns about 140 acres that could keep some cattle on the property if he likes looking at cattle. I mean, I would have no problems if he decided he wanted to open a cattle ranch there. No, I mean,
and then one of the things that he talked about was the fact that, the traffic when his daughters were going to school. Well, doesn't he realize what he's going to create by doing that? And what about somebody else's daughter trying to go to school and drive on that highway? And then I don't think they really addressed something else either. They skirted around it. They addressed the traffic flow and increased traffic on 212, and were very careful to skate around and avoid the Oglesby Bridge traffic problem that would be developed. So wasn't there going to at least be 2 entrances and exits off Oglesby Bridge also?
That is correct. There's one entrance off of 212, I believe, and 2 entrances off of Oglesby Bridge.
So I mean, and that putting that kind of traffic on Oglesby Bridge. I mean, we know what it would do to 212 with that traffic. I mean, Oglesby Bridge, that would change the landscape of that altogether. Just as, and I think one of the things that Kay brought up is what it would do to the East Fairview, which is already. I don't think people realize how busy East Fairview is from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock when school is in session. I mean, they don't realize it, do they?
No.
That's one of the busiest traveled roads in Rockdale County during school hours, if not one of the busiest.
And with the increase of possibly your neighborhood, James, and a potential new neighborhood on the 40 acres, the potential RV park, the roundabout is kind of like behind time. Like I would have preferred a 2-lane or roundabout versus a 1-lane when you think about the potential of the influx of new development, the influx of parents dropping off kids at school. But even in general now, that roundabout is just a glorified stop sign. So it's not really serving a good purpose because traffic is still backing up.
I was surprised they didn't put a 2-lane roundabout because they've got the air. They really didn't take advantage of the space there. They've got that huge middle area, and they could have actually did a 2-lane round. I think they actually had the land there to do that with.
And that's not my expertise, but logically speaking, when you're thinking about, the investment that they're making, it just really just truly makes sense to just do everything for the future of Rockdale and to have 2 lanes because, at some point, with the increase in just people driving or more people coming into this area, that you definitely going to need more lanes. So we are going to have to redo some more infrastructure probably in the next couple of years. And just to add, I know you all mentioned that the buyer wanted to live across the street with the RV park. The buyer was saying that he was going to live on the property. The buyer said that people would not be able to stay there longer than 30 days, but they may have the option to renew, or they may have the option to revisit their parking pass or to revisit staying for another 30 days. It just becomes very cumbersome that he can manage 30 days here, or someone else can basically rebook this location. If I'm living in an RV with my husband, my kids, I can rebook it again. So it really does become more of a long-term transitional type of RV parks.
Yeah, exactly. And I got concerned when I started hearing that 30-day thing, right? That's an eternity stay in an RV park. It really is. So when they started mentioning 30 days, Kay, I immediately knew this was not a normal RV park setting, that he was intended for this to be long-term living. When he started talking about 30 days and then renewing, this was not going to be a recreational RV park. This was going to be an extended stay or a trailer park. And that's what I've been telling people, not an RV park. This is a trailer park. It'll be just like the ones that are off of the access highway that's over in Covington, in Newton County. There are 2 of them right over there. They may sell them as RV parks, but those are long-term trailer parks is what they are. Just
and
point blank.
Once it's there, is nothing that the community can do. And I'm very hopeful that the commissioner and the chairman Osmond Nesbitt, and the rest of the commissioners really think about the life that they want to have here in Rockdale. And I feel very hopeful and promising that they will make that decision. That decision will be finalized on September the 10th during their voting session. So I'm very hopeful that the community has showed up. We've sent the emails. I think Chairman Ness Oz basically said, that he got all of our emails. So thank you, community, that he got all of our emails and he got all of the phone calls. So we definitely have shown up in numbers to the testament of that we do not want it. So if they're truly about the people for Rockdale, I truly believe that this will be declined. and that we just have to wait on the next person or the next developer to kind of come and see what they're proposed for this particular space. So I'm very hopeful that the board will make the right decision.
And I am too regarding this issue. Jane, somebody just mentioned in the Joy did wanted to know the size of the lots again. Why don't you go over that again? Because that is, I think, one of the most interesting aspects of this proposal is how they want to move from the zoning that's there now to put this high density, like you, and I think you described it great, putting Archie Bunker row homes into Green Acres, and that's a great. So why don't you explain to people what rezoning they intend to use to try to get this high density housing in the subdivision?
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the municipal code to see if there's a nice chart in there that there's on Facebook. There's a Stop Shea Farms development that I think David Nash started. He's one of the adjacent neighbors. And sorry, I've lost train of thought, derailed there. So this is currently AR, agricultural residential, which has a 1 acre minimum lot size for a home. They want it changed to collaborative residential subdivision, which I don't know how they came up with that name, but it has a minimum square footage of a lot of 10,000 square feet. Now, not all of them will be that. I think Charlotte Scott had taken some notes and said that it would be like 85 by 150 feet, and it works out to about 12,750 square feet. But you're talking about a third of an acre to a quarter. Excuse me. I'm sorry. 10,000 square feet is about just under a quarter acre. If you get to 12,000, you're just about 3/10 of an acre. So I believe that the Planning Commission staff report said that it would be an adjusted density of about 3 buildings per acre is what they're looking for. So they're not very large lots at all. Even if they were to go to, say, something like a single family residential district, R1, that you're looking at about you're looking at about a half acre, which Manchester is the minimum half acre.
Yeah, Alex McDonald put up here, there's 43,560 square feet an acre, so it would be a quarter acre lots.
Yeah.
So, and that's not much at all. And they actually said the other day, you can correct me if I'm wrong, James, there would be 20-foot spacing between homes.
Yes. 10-foot setbacks on either side of the property line. So 20 feet between houses. He said that's currently what it is in Manchester. I haven't got my tape measure out and measure between me and my neighbor's house. That's especially with lots that small, houses will be packed. One of the things about Manchester is, yes, the houses side to side are fairly closely spaced, but front to back, they're very deep lots. So, for example, I have a very long lots in Manchester so I've got there's a large separation between me and the street behind me. I will say that one thing that really concerns me about this is not just C Farms, because as Mr. C said, talked to me, Tom Hicks used to keep cattle on this property. Well, the old Bar H Ranch, I think, is still owned by the Hicks family. It's a quarter mile, half mile north on 212. That's a huge area of land that is one day going to be sold, and they're going to try and put a subdivision here. Now we're spoiled on 212 because the monastery owns so much road frontage property that we don't have a large number of subdivisions, but that's one area that concerns me. So I really want to fight this so that down the road, we've already set a precedent for if the old Bar H Ranch sells.
Well, and that's one of the things I spoken to with Janice Van Ness, who will soon be the chairman of the board here, that Rockdale County needs to uh, have a land plan. We need to have our zoning set, and we need to quit amending and doing special use permits. That we need. This is what the land plan is for Rockdale County, and we need to quit every time something comes along, giving a special permit, giving into this, giving in. This is what the long-term plan is for the county. This is what the zoning is. This is the land development plan, and this is where we're going to stick to. And what we've had in the last 12 years or so is, you got to remember, we're the second smallest landmass county in the state of Georgia, and probably have one of the highest rate of land deals that goes on. And the math doesn't add up, folks. And just to tell you, statistically across the United States, when you look at when government officials get in trouble, do you know what they get in trouble over? Land deals. The chairman of Newton County, why is he in trouble right now? He's in trouble because of a land deal. Not only him, but the post one of the other individuals that would be that's unopposed in the general election that's going to take one of the district seats, was also involved in the land deal discrepancy as an attorney and wasn't even a member of the board yet. But that's the main reason, one of the main things that happen in local government that is why officials get in trouble. It's land deals. And when you have a county the size of Rockdale, who has all the land deals that we have going on, it leads you to believe that there's something going on behind the scenes. And that's just the reality of things, folks. I mean, that's what we have to look at. When you look at all of these proposed land deals going on, why did all of a sudden it become attractive to come to the second smallest landmass county in the state of Georgia to try to do these kind of things? There's a reason. There's a reason it became attractive. And but you know what? Rockdale County decided they were tired of it. They went to the polls this past May, and they spoke loudly, and they spoke loudly for change. And you guys are going to hold those new folks accountable, because you want to be able to count on, if I buy a piece of property in Rockdale County and I bought it because it's rural and it's peaceful and it's quiet, I intend to want to live my life out on that property for the reason I bought it. And we all understand that development can occur, but it needs to occur under the conditions that I knew it could occur when I purchased that property. That's my assessment on it. Would either one of you like to comment on that?
I do agree. I do want to reimagine what Rockdale can be because of the green space that we do have here, especially with the 40 acres. And what I've asked the board and I asked our community members to say is, if you cannot deny this request, you need to defer it. If you, as our commissioner and our board, cannot make the sound decision that we do not need an RV park, you need to defer it to the incoming board come January, because as one of your listeners said, we don't want this to be your legacy. Like, this is your last fight or flight. We do not want this to be your legacy, is having an RV park, because once you get one RV park, more is to come. More would come, and more people will be on the corners. More people will be, waiting at our schools to, I hate to use the word sex traffic, or, young students. It's just a buffet waiting to happen, having an RV park directly 2 minutes from a school. At some point, you may even see homeless people out at that gas station before. We don't want more of that, because it can lead to those type of people coming to this particular area. And I'm not opposed to having some other type of environment where where people who may need some transit support and housing, but it's not going to be in our residential neighborhood. So I've asked the commissioner and James, once you have a chance to speak in front of the planning commission and in front of the board, ask them to deny or to defer this. So if they cannot make the sound decision, we don't need you to make the decision. Let's just have the incoming board make the decision. But again, I am hopeful. I am optimistic that our current board will denounce and deny this particular special use permit.
Well, Sean Willingham Brown asked a question. He said someone needs to see how many homes are currently for sale in Rockdale County that are surplus real estate. I don't know Rockdale County per se, but I do know the Southeast. I saw a report there were over 300,000 homes in southeastern United States that are surplus homes that are on the market that are not being sold right now. So, and just for everybody out there that wants to know, that's more homes, that's more surplus realty that is available now than was available during 2008 during the Great Crash. So we have right now more homes available to sell that can't be sold than we did in 2008 when we had the big market crash, housing market crash. Guys, we need to really be careful of the housing market right now. What's going on? Adding more homes that are not going to be sold. I mean, the other day when they talked about that nonsense about, these homes are out there and they sell them as fast as they build them. You heard that, James, right? Mm-hmm. So have they looked in Rockdale County? They're not selling them as fast as they're building. They actually can't sell them, and they've started leasing the ones they said they were going to sell. So they can't even sell these homes they're building now. And then they're wanting to add more surplus that they're not going to be able to sell. So we really need to be cautious about what's going on. And I agree with you 1,000%. Defer this. Let the new board handle this. Let's get a moratorium in place. Let's look at our zoning. Let's set it in place and say, hey, this is what it is, and we're not going to do any more of these special permits. We're not going to deviate from it. This is what it is, and this is how it's going to be. That's what I look at. So I just hope that they do that. They do defer these things and let the new board look at it.
Well, one thing I'll throw in, you mentioned was I just did a rough spreadsheet a couple of days ago. When you talk about Rockdale County, I mean, Rockdale County is 84,000 or 85,000 acres. And when Manchester was built in 93, our population was 53,000. This was something Mr. C was talking about at the meeting. And he was talking about, well, you live in a Steve Goodsell development, which I do. And he said, I like to see the cows, and now I see, subdivision, but I didn't respond to him because I didn't think it appropriate. But, my response to that would be, well, in 1993, Rockdale County had a population of 53,000. Now it's 93,000. That's like 1.1 person per acre. If you look at Newton County, their population, they're large enough that they're about 2/3 of a person per acre. Henry County is about 1.2. You get to DeKalb and Gwinnett County, and you're at about 3.3. But those are over twice the size of Rockdale County, so they can have the infrastructure to support that population growth. We don't have. If all of everything that's under construction, and Chris Curran sent me a spreadsheet that from 2023 or 2022 that talked about everything that had been improved just in 2020 and 2021, and it was like 3,200 housing units. And now we're talking about adding, and I was looking at some of the comments, another 800 housing units. For who? Rivian hasn't moved in. The only thing that's being built around here, industrial, are warehouses. Where are the people coming from that are supposed to be buying this? Okay, Chris said 4,700. But where are the people supposed to be coming from? And how are we supposed to handle this? We can't handle the drag racers coming in from DeKalb or Newton or wherever they're coming, or from within Rockdale. I mean, last night I was sitting there listening to them. There were 50 cars according to the police scanner, at Oglesby Bridge, and 20 at the BP. There was a deputy car. It was in a crash with one of them last night. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And I agree with Kay. Please defer it, but I'm just afraid that my fear is that just as a parting shot at the county, some of this will get approved just because we voted them out.
Well,
Larry, let me ask you this question. I know at some point that Rockdale County schools are, receiving free, everyone gets free lunch because we consider one of the poorest counties in the state of Georgia. Are you aware, or am I misspeaking about that?
It's not just Georgia. When you qualify for the grant that they got from the Department of Agriculture, you're considered one of the poorest counties in the country.
So, so someone like Rockdale, who's considered, from your words, the poorest county, but we still want to continue to build all of these homes, and now to bring in an RV park to show how poor we really are. We do not want that look. We do want some more stable homes. I was shocked to hear that, because I'm just shocked. I was just really shocked and kind of saddened to kind of hear that Rockdale was not a thriving county, and that we want to own that all of our kids get free lunch now. Like, that wasn't something I was proud of.
Well, that not only Rockdale, Newton County also qualified for the same grant. So when we look at what's going on, then the perception of what we think is going on is not what's going on.
I see that now.
When you qualify for a grant that you only get if you're considered an extreme poverty county or area, then it's not a good situation you're in. So, and then one of the things, like they talked about, is, you got 65% residential tax base, 35% commercial. And then you say, well, we need to turn it, but then you keep approving more residential. And all you're doing is putting yourself more in the hole, right? So it makes no sense whatsoever. And then they cited the ARC over there at Mr. Say's meeting, right? And I wish they would have actually cited the whole thing. That the ARC actually said this about Rockdale County. Said that they identified Rockdale County as an aging community, that the average person moving to Rockdale County was 55 plus, that they advised for Rockdale County to look at the type of housing they were building and to build houses for the people that were moving here. So they actually told them, you need to start building houses for seniors, because you're becoming an aging community. You're becoming a community of seniors. And not only does the Atlanta Regional Commission's statistics show that, but the census statistics from 2020 also back up and support exactly what the Atlanta Regional Commission says. And one of the things that I talked about when running for school board was this: at some point, the word consolidation is going to have to be looked at in Rockdale County when it comes to school system. When you've got a high school that its population is 50% of capacity, and the trend has been going down, at some point, it's not sustainable to keep that building open with less than 50% capacity. It just doesn't make sense. Then you've got other schools that are 70%, in the 70s, and they keep going down. When the ARC and the census both say the average age of a person moving to Rockdale County is 55 years old. And I think we're all reasonably intelligent here, and we know someone who's 55 moving to Rockdale County isn't bringing kids with them. They're not bringing children to enter that school system.
And I think, I would prefer an aging community over drag racing any day. So, so if another developer comes to say, we want to do a 55, 65 plus community on this 40 acres RV special use permit, that's different than an RV park. at least we know those residents will use some of the local resources, like the grocery stores, like the place that they worship, like the gas station. They may not be property tax owners, but it is something to consider when you're thinking about reimagine what Rockdale can be. Maybe the crime rate. We won't have some of those problems if it's more of a mature 55, 65-year-old community coming in.
I agree. I agree with you 1,000%. When we talked about that, and that's where I was going to go with that. Maybe what they need to look at, if they would want to, and we would all be more favorable toward it, if they would want to develop something for senior living. I don't think you'd have a lot of fight about that.
Mm-mm.
I don't think you'd have a lot of fight about that at all, right? So, but that's not what they want, because those would be lower. Those would be less. The cost would be less, and that's not what they're looking at. I think before we started the show, I asked a question. Well, how come 240 and how come 200? Because that's as many as they can put in there to maximize what they're going to do. And that's what I said was the same thing as in 2018 when the citizens of Rockdale County defeated the bond for the courthouse project. It was, why did they ask for 140 million? Well, it was because it was all the credit limit would allow them to ask for. That's why it was 140 million. And why is it 240 and why is it 200? Because it's all they can squeeze in there with what modified plan they're trying to push through. That's why. Because if they could ask for 300, they'd ask for 300. But they can only ask for 240 and 200 because that's as many as they can squeeze in there with what they're trying to get a special use permit or rezoning to do. So, I mean, that's what I think we're looking at. So let me just do one thing before we sign off here. I was going to actually do a little bit of something here. You guys don't know, I actually just got elected to the school board, and I plan on having town halls. And my first town hall is this coming Wednesday. And I'm having it at Shady Grove Baptist Church at 2105 Old Covington Highway. And I wanted to just extend my thanks to the folks at Shady Grove. So I attended the church service today to thank them for allowing me to come to the sanctuary to hold this meeting this coming Wednesday. But I did tell them I had a bone to pick with them. And this was my bone. I was originally scheduled to have my town hall on Tuesday, but Vice President Harris and former President Trump didn't consult with me when they moved in on my date. So I said, I'll be gracious this time and allow them to have their debate on Tuesday, and I'll move my event to Wednesday. So, but the church group got a good little laugh out of that when I told them, that I had a bone to pick about that. But we are going to have that town hall this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. All indication is I think we're going to have a really nice crowd there. And I know, we got a nice audience tonight. Invite your friends. Let everybody know that we're going to have this education town hall listening meeting. Because I'm going to tell you something. This will be the first one you've had in Rockdale County. Board members do not have town halls. And a lot of it's because they were given a misguided impression they weren't allowed to have them. Well, researched the law, done a lot of research about the law as I've been running for this, and you're allowed to have town halls. Just have to be cautious about what you say and how you say it when you're a sitting board member. Not a sitting board member until January, so I don't have to really be cautious or creative about what I'm going to say this time or the one I'm going to have in November. But when I become a sitting board member, I will comply with the ethics rules and the laws. And you know what? This is the thing about it. When you're on the board gets to set policy. The board actually, but believe it or not, the Board of Education sets the policy by which they operate under. So the board, when I get on it, may be considering policy changes that are more favorable to these meetings that board members want to have. Because what it comes down to, folks, is this: is bureaucrats in government. They don't represent you. They represent government, and they represent the system. That's why you elect elected officials to represent you. And elected officials have to have the courage to actually represent you, because we're going to get pushback if we represent you. But not afraid to push back, not afraid to represent you, not going to violate any laws. I am going to use the law to represent you. So come out to the town hall. That's all I got to say about that. I look forward to seeing everybody at the town hall. Kay, if you'd like to close with anything this evening, once you give your closing statement.
I just want to give a shout out to those community members who have sent me emails, who have sent emails, who have consulted me on Voices of Rockdale, Tanae Davis. I spoke with you, Larry Cox, just to kind of put me on the right path to kind of fight this battle, this uphill battle. And I feel very comfortable and confident on our current commissioners making the right decisions. So thank you for having me on your show. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, Kay. And James, what your final comment?
Just echo what Kay said. We've got an opportunity to make a difference here. The Planning Commission meets this Thursday, and then the Board of Commissioners meets for public hearings on the 24th. Please turn out. Email, ask the meeting be moved to the auditorium. We're getting pushback on that, but we've got to make a lot of noise. I'm pushing out to the Stop Sea Farms development page and the email list we put together about that. But yeah, please speak up. Let the commissioners know that they can't pull anything going out the door. That we're against this. We're opposed to this. And thanks everybody that's supported and helped me. Larry, appreciate having you on the show. Never had the idea that when I first started watching the show about a year or so ago that I would be a guest star on it. So thanks for having me on.
A lot of people have said that. I never thought I would be on the show, but they end up on the show. But guys, don't you think that, shows like This Week from Rockdale, they're in today's time, they're a necessity, especially in Rockdale. We don't have a local TV station, don't have local radio, and the newspaper is, you don't really get a lot there. So shows like this help educate the public. And when people were concerned that I wasn't going to continue the show after I got elected, I'm going to continue the show. Just have to be careful about what I talk about as far as Board of Education wise. But nothing else is off limit. Just sort of got to be careful about Board of Education stuff. So, and that's what I'll intend to do. But thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Next week, tune in 8 p.m. Sunday. This Week from Rockdale. If you guys will stay in when we tune off, and then we can do a little wrap up and everything. But guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. Share, like the show. Let's make sure this gets out there. And I look forward to seeing a lot of you guys this coming Wednesday at Shady Grove Baptist Church on Old Covington Road. Joy, not Highway. My bad.